plants aren't just sceneries, they are biological factories. I'm just inspired by a simple, frustrating fact that we produce enough food to feed the world, yet billions of people are still sick because the food is empty.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another interesting episode of the Global Health Pharmacist Podcast. But today, it's another episode of Global Health Conversations with Pharm. And I have a very important personality here today to talk to us about a particularly interesting topic. You see, I've made episodes on the podcast about, diet, exercise, how they're a great combo, and how food is medicine. But I realized that while that is true, what is the quality of this food that we are asking people to consume? You get the nutrients in them is why we say food is medicine. And if these nutrients are not up to par, then why do we say that people should eat well, consume these, eat vegetables and all? Do they actually have what we need to maintain our health? That is why the topic for today is talking about a concept called eating hunger. And who better to discuss it than an expert when it comes to plants, and all of that. And that is why I have with me on this conversation, Dr. Elomufe Ikuyeminu. She received a bachelor's degree, BTech in microbiology from the Department of Biological Science, Ondo State University of Science and Technology, that's USUSTEC in Nigeria, in 2016. And then she completed an internship in the Department of Virology in University College Hospital, Ibadan, Nigeria, where she gained valuable experience in serology and molecular biology, analyzing different parameters related to infectious diseases. Okay, she completed a PhD, and the research project was crop salinity tolerance induction using novel biostimulants, salty bio for short. And she did this at Munster Technological University,
Republic of Ireland,
in 2021. So our research involves the development of plant biostimulants with the ability to stimulate growth and salt stress tolerance processes in plants. And this research focuses on using skills and tools from advanced agronomy, plant physiology, biochemistry, enzymology, molecular biology, bioinformatics, transcriptomics, and biostatistics. That's a lot of things packed together so that you know that she has the expertise to talk about plants today. And that is why I would ask you to welcome with me Dr. Ikuyeminu Elomufe to the Global Health Conversation with Pharm. But before we start the conversation, here is a fun fact. Dr. Elo used to be a secondary school mate of mine, and we've kept in touch since then. So I'm very much excited to have this conversation with her after all these years. And with that, I welcome you to the Global Health Conversations with Pharm. Dr. Elo, welcome.
Thank you very much, Pharm. I'm very grateful. Thanks for inviting me to talk on today's topic.
Thank you so much for accepting the invite. I'm so glad to have you here. So let's quickly go to the conversation. Let me ask first. I know that I've read, like a little profile of you, what you do, what you did and all. But can you quickly introduce yourself? Let's hear from the horse's mouth and tell us about your journey into plant biology research.
Okay. So I'm a research and development scientist, and I'm focused on helping plants to grow better. My journey began when I realized that plants aren't just sceneries, they are biological factories. I wanted to understand how we could reprogram these factories to produce more of the nutrients humans actually need to strive and not just survive.
Thank you so much. So I like the fact that you said that plants are not just scenery. They are biological factories, and that is very important, especially when it comes to our health. When we say food is medicine, is the constituents in this plant that we're actually talking about. So there are factories that produce this. So I love that especially. So could you please tell me what inspired your interest in improving plant nutrition? Is there any
Okay.
personal story or what's actually spurred you on to do that?
Um, I'm just inspired by a simple, frustrating fact that we produce enough food to feed the world, yet billions of people are still sick because the food is empty.
Hmm.
So, improving plant nutrition is the most direct way to improve humans' health without asking everyone to change their entire culture or diet. So, that's the reason why I decided to keep researching on plant nutrition.
Wow, thank you. But let me ask this. Owing to your background in microbiology, why do you
Mm-hmm.
think that there's this switch, microbiology, plant biology? Is there a connection?
Um, Yes, there's kind of connection. Then that will be later on when we talk about plant-based stimulants, because we can have some microbial plant-based stimulants. But at the beginning, the switch was when I realized that come 2050, the world would need more food. But then crop production is faced with many adverse conditions such as salinity stress. So that was what triggered me to like, okay, to fight for food security and sustainability. So yeah.
That's very interesting. That means that you've been looking forward. You are very forward thinking. And that's what scientists are really. They project into the future, look at the problems we may encounter in the next 50, 100 years even, and start
Mhm.
working with it from today. That's very interesting. Thank you. So
Yeah,
for listeners who may be unfamiliar with the term eating hunger, what is it and why is it considered a major global health challenge?
okay. Yeah, eating hunger is a form of undernutrition that occurs when the quality of food people eat does not meet their nutrient requirement. It is eating because the person might consume enough calories to feel full and look well fed, but then their body is internally starving for essential vitamins and minerals. So yeah.
Wow, that means somebody might actually feel full, but
Mhm.
their cells are actually hungry.
Yeah, they are nutritionally starved. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. So when we say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, maybe it's not really true. These days, anyway, because I used to wonder myself that this food we ask people to consume, eat vegetables, eat fruits, eat this, eat that. What is the constituent of these things? Especially these days. There are days that I would buy some fruit and the way they would taste, I would feel like this is not how this is supposed to taste,
Hmm.
compared to before. So I'm
Hmm.
wondering, what's the problem? Is it climate change? What's happening? Sometimes you buy some vegetables, they're not even green anymore. They're
Hmm.
looking withered and all of that. So that was what actually spurred me. Like, I must get an expert in plant science, plant biology to actually come and discuss it. And so that listeners of the podcast would actually understand what this eating hunger means and how it is affecting the world today. So,
Hmm.
as a backup to that last question, how does eating hunger differ from general malnutrition or insufficient calorie intake? What's the difference between a malnourished person and the person suffering from eating hunger?
Okay. So insufficient calorie or starvation is like when your stomach is empty, not enough food. You
Mm.
don't eat enough food. Whereas eating hunger is you are actually full. Your stomach is full of rice, of corn, of bread, yet your blood is missing the important some important minerals such as iron, zinc, etc. that is needed to keep your brain and immune system working. So yeah, that's why it's eating, because then it's not like you're hungry, but then you don't have all you need, all the nutrition. So yeah.
Wow, wow, that makes sense. So, which micronutrient deficiencies are most common globally now, and what impact do they have on health outcomes?
Yeah, so we have lots of them, but then I'm just going to mention just two. So we have iron, vitamin A, and zinc. So iron deficiency can cause tiredness, brain fog, vitamin A is the leading cause of lack of it is the leading cause of preventable blindness that can be seen in kids. And then zinc is actually essential for fighting off cold and infections. So once we don't have these three or more of them combined, then they affect billions, and this can affect the IQ of the person, and also it's a potential economic threat for the entire nations, basically,
Wow.
because then yeah, people are suffering, they can't function well due to all of this.
Hmm. Yeah, when we have more people suffering from one eye defect or the other, of course, it will affect their productivity. When people
Mm-hmm.
have diseases, that can't be treated easily or require a lot of money, of course, it will affect productivity as well. Yes,
Yeah.
I understand the economic aspect very well. Yeah.
Okay.
So that leads me to this question. Why is eating hunger still a prevalent thing despite advances in agriculture and food production? Why is it
Mm.
still occurring?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for decades, agriculture has focused just on quantity, like growing the most tons of food possible to prevent famine,
Hmm.
where we've succeeded at filling bellies, but then we've actually diluted this nutrient in our crops. So modern day crops have lower mineral levels than the varieties our grandparents ate. So this could be the reason why, yeah, it's so prevalent. So we're just producing just food, but then not the quality. The quality is not taken into consideration. So yeah,
Yeah, so I understand that it's quantity over quality, right?
yes.
We're not really
So
sure about, but what could have caused that? Like, I'm sure that people plant crops, what could
mhm.
be responsible from your own perspective for this dilution in quality?
um another reason could be climate change,
Hmm.
because then the rise in CO2, carbon dioxide, can also affect um like you said, dilute the protein and mineral contents of the soil,
Hmm.
thereby affecting their uptake, and yeah, the plant is not reaching those.
Yeah,
So
yeah, climate change, flooding, and all of that all together.
mhm,
Yeah, I
mhm,
get. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So how does plant biology research now? We are going into the core of it, your area of expertise. How does it
Mhm.
help to improve the nutrient content of crops?
Okay, thank you. So, researchers use molecular breeding or gene expression analysis to understand how plant transports minerals from the soil to the edible parts, such as the grains in case of rice. By identifying the key transporter genes, we can then breed plants that are more graded for like those nutrients we're talking about, like zinc, iron, yeah, in the sun. So you breed the plant to um get more of these deficient nutrients.
Okay. So there's a way you engineer them to want more of those things to maximize
Hmm.
what is available to produce a better yield, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that is a concept that is called biofortification. I did my research too because I know I'm speaking to a plant expert. So can you explain this? Even though I don't know much about it, I just know that there's something called biofortification. But can you please explain it in terms that my listeners and I will understand and how it helps to address these micronutrient deficiencies?
Okay, good one. Yeah, biofortification is the process of increasing the nutritional value of food crops through agronomic practices, conventional plant breeding, or modern biotechnology. Unlike fortification, adding nutrients during processing, biofortification builds the nutrient directly into the plants as they grow. So as the plant is growing, you're adding those nutrients so that they'll become available for human consumption. Whereas we also have a term known as fortification, which is like extra during processing. But bio is like at the plant level. You're helping the plant, you're building them to absorb the nutrients they need for human consumption. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So how does this actually differ from traditional fertilization? In the traditional way, they add fertilizers to plants to crops.
Mm-hmm.
How does
Mm-hmm.
fertilization differ from that?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Traditional fertilization is adding nutrient to the soil or leaves of plants primarily to help them to grow bigger and faster.
Mm,
Whereas biofortification, on the other hand, specifically targets the edible parts of the plant to ensure that these nutrients you're adding, they'll be bioavailable for human consumption. So you don't just want bigger plant, but you want the aftermath, like yeah,
mm.
when being consumed, you're still there.
Wow. So a fortified plant can actually be small in size and still have the nutrient that you need it to have compared to a bigger plant. Is that what you're
It-
saying?
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Wow, that's nice. So I'm sure that there are technicalities. Maybe you explain a few to us in the course of the questions, but let's leave that for yeah. So what role does soil health play in determining the nutrient density of crops? Like what role does when is soil is actually healthy? How can we say soil is healthy? What is it supposed to contain? And what role does that play in nutrient density of crops?
Mm, okay, thank you. I'll start by saying that you cannot get gold out of a silver mine.
Mm,
So if the soil is dead or missing minerals, then the plant cannot absorb them. So healthy soil is a soil that is full of beneficial microbes that will act as delivery service to bring the nutrients straight to the plant roots. So the healthy soil is like a living ecosystem. If the soil is depleted of minerals or lacks the microbial life that is needed to help the roots to absorb these minerals, then the crop would be deficient of nutrient regardless of its genetics. You might have a very good seed planted, but if the soil is wrong, then you can't really get anything out of it. Yeah.
mm. Wow, that's beautiful. I think this is what you were saying when you said we'll get to the microbiology aspect in subsequent
Mhm.
questions. So we are talking about
Yeah.
microbial content of the plant, of the soil, I mean.
So yeah.
So this
Hmm.
brings back memories about One Health. I talked about One Health in previous episodes of the podcast, even recently, talking about
Okay.
how the plants and animals and humans, together, the ecosystem have to work together for health. So it's not
Exactly.
happening
Hmm.
outside the soil. It's even happening under the soil, inside the ground. That
Hmm.
microbes also help the soil so that the plant can get nutrients. That's very beautiful. Thank you so
Hmm.
much for letting me know that. And I'm sure our audience are also learning something today. So another question I have for you is, how do environmental factors such as climate change affect plant nutrients? I know we've talked about it, we've touched on it earlier, but can you
Yeah.
explain further how this climate change actually affects plant nutrient composition?
Hmm. Yeah, thanks for that. We've touched a bit of this, like you said. So, like this climate change, during this, there can be rise in carbon dioxide, and then the rise in carbon dioxide can serve as junk food for plants. So
Mm,
why we said, yeah, during photosynthesis we know, yeah, carbon dioxide is needed, right?
yeah.
But then too much of everything is bad. So once it's in a very high concentration, then it dilutes the concentration of the protein or minerals like zinc, iron in the crops. And this is known as the dilution effect that we're talking about
Okay,
earlier.
yeah, now I get it. That dilution we're talking about, the quality
Mhm,
thing. So it's
mhm.
actually due to excess CO2.
Yeah,
Wow, that means all this combustion is not only affecting our ozone layer, it's also affecting our plant nutrients. All the
yeah, exactly. Mhm.
photosynthesis and all. Wow, wow.
Yeah.
This is very enlightening. That means we have to be careful what we release into the environment. Our plants are also being affected. And in turn, we are being affected because of the nutrients we are not getting from these plants that we should.
Mhm,
Yes, let's now go deeper now. Can you tell us about your current research focus? Because I know you're a researcher,
mhm.
renowned one, well-traveled with conferences and all. So can you tell us what your research focus is right now?
Okay, yeah. So my research focus is mainly on biostimulants. Yeah, I've been talking about biostimulants. What are biostimulants? So these are natural substances. It could be from seaweed, it could be protein hydrolysates, humic acid, etc.
Hmm.
That are not fertilizer. They're different from fertilizers, but they trigger plant natural processes to enhance nutrient uptake and tolerance to abiotic stress such as salinity, heat, and drought, etc. They're just like substances that tell the plant to work harder. It's like giving the plant a motivational speech to absorb more nutrients, even if the soil is poor. It's like, okay, you have to do your best, yeah, and then the plant will be able to
Hmm.
do
Well,
that.
that's beautiful. So these are natural substances
Mm-hmm.
that you give to the plant, and this will motivate the plant to take up the available nutrients, right? Not that they'll produce their own.
Mm-hmm. They're not nutrient. They'll just, it's like you're telling them use what you have wisely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how is
Mhm.
this work of yours contributing to improve plant nutrient uptake or efficiency?
Okay, thank you. Yes, so like I said, working with biostimulants, we have different specialized seaweed extracts. So we have one specifically that helps to trigger plant nitrogen use efficiency, and this allows farmers to use like 20 or 25% less chemical fertilizer while still getting higher yield. So in the world we are today, we have lots of so the government, they're trying to promote the use of less nitrogen, and then but most farmers they want to use more nitrogen, but then there are some side effects and the
Mhm.
rest. So but with our research, you can tell the farmer that even though you apply like 20 to 25% less, you still have the same effect once you apply the biostimulant. So with that you get better yield, and then you also reducing your nitrogen intake to the soil.
Yeah. Just like you said, too much of everything is bad. If there's a way
Mhm.
to actually reduce it and still have the same quality or even higher, why not? So I think that's
Exactly.
what stimulants are doing, right?
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Yeah.
Okay. So what emerging technologies show promise in tackling eating hunger in the world? In your own research.
Okay. We have like Okay, we have CRISPR gene editing. So this is a game changer. It allows us to make tiny, precise typo correction in the plant DNA to boost vitamin without actually adding foreign genes. And then there is precision agriculture, like using drones and sensors to apply specific micronutrients only to where the soil is deficient. It's like you're not just putting sake. You actually go to where there's deficiency and then trying to solve that problem. So yeah.
Now, this is beautiful. I know a little about CRISPR. That is when it comes to therapeutics, actually. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you know that it could even be
For plants as well.
so
Yeah.
that's beautiful. But precision agriculture too, it sounds interesting. But all of this
Mhm.
to a layman, they sound too technical. Like, what? What is all of this? How can we achieve this? So how can these biotechnological methods actually complement traditional farming approaches?
Thank you. So biotech is not a replacement for traditional farming. It's an upgrade. So a farmer in a remote village can use like they can plant a biofortified seed using the same tools they've been using for generations. But then the harvest would be life changing for their children's health. So it's like you're upgrading. Well, you use the same tool, but then you're using different seeds, and that's the game changer, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this takes me to the challenges. Like, what challenges exist when you try to translate all these laboratory discoveries, all these techniques into real world farming solutions? For example, making these biofortified plants available to farmers in remote places like in Africa, in South America, or globally. You know that, well, not all farmers have access to labs where these things are produced. So how do you make it available to all those people that actually need it?
Yeah, you've mentioned the answer already. So the biggest hurdle is access. So
Hmm.
it's one thing to grow a super bean in a lab in Europe. It's another thing to get that seed into the hands of a farmer in rural, let's say in countries like Ethiopia, we need better seed sharing network and local trust as well, because sometimes too it's difficult to get the farmers to trust you. They're like, oh, we've planted this for ages, how can I trust these new seeds?
Mm.
Yeah, so that can also be a factor too, like for
Yeah.
them to get what you bring into them.
Mm. So that means it still has to do with information, making them know what is
Hmm.
based,
Network sharing, yeah.
and
Hmm.
actually making them know the importance of it, what they tend to gain from it, and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of agricultural extension that we did in school back then, how you take up new technologies and innovations to farmers and all of that. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
makers and all agriculturists listening to this will be more interested and would find a way to make this available. But apart from access, what about cost? Because some farmers may be saying these things are big name things, so laboratories and all. How can farmers adopt these nutrient enhancing strategies without significantly increasing production costs?
Okay, that's a good question. So, like we said, biofortification at the beginning, we talked about biofortification. Yeah, so biofortification is incredibly cost effective because the tech is inside the seed. So once the farmer has the seed, once they have it, they don't necessarily need expensive new equipment or chemical to benefit from it. So they once they have access to the seed, then they can grow it the way they normally grow their crops, and everything would be perfect. So it's actually very cost effective. All they just need is the seed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once they get the seed, do
Mm-hmm.
can they replant it or they have to keep going back to get it?
Yeah, some of most of the seeds can be replanted. Yeah, so then you keep
Mm.
replanting, not just one for one time. You keep benefiting, you can keep replanting, and yeah, so that's currently being studied as well to
Mm.
see some characteristics can be passed to next generation of the plants. Yeah.
Okay, that's beautiful. So we've talked about access, cost, and all. So I want to ask now, in your own opinion and based on your experience and expertise, what role do you think policymakers can play in addressing this eating hunger through agricultural and nutritional policies?
Hmm. Um, I think that the government, they should start rewarding farmers for how healthy their crops can be.
Mm.
They should be a value, not just, oh, how much you grow, yeah, you're the best farmer of the year. If they can bring like a tag to say, oh yeah, those with headache crops, yeah, we have some stuff for you, then it's that would be great, because then nutrition is a matter of national security, so they need to encourage farmers. They need that would also help.
Yeah, I get,
Yeah.
yeah. But to be able to ascertain that plants are
Mhm.
nutrition dense, don't you think that they also still have to um, invest in science, in technology, so that there will be
Eh,
labs that can actually test these crops, or they
mhm,
actually support these private farmers that are coming up using science and technology, to test plants and all of that, so that they can actually be able to know the plants that are actually rich in nutrients.
mhm.
So that's another way, right? Am I right?
Yeah, the way, yeah, to fund science driven technology. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect. Yeah, they
Okay.
can do that as well to encourage both
Yeah.
scientists as well as farmers as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this next question, I feel like I might know the answer because I'm in health, but researcher too. I'm sure that you have the answer. So let the people hear it from you. All right.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
how does improving plant nutrient density actually translate into better public health outcomes?
Okay, so better plant nutrients is equal to fewer hospital visits,
Mhm.
leading to better school performance, long life expectancy, and also is the ultimate preventive medicine. Because if you have all your body needed, all the nutrients, everything, then you'll be fine. You don't need to visit the hospital often. And yeah, and you do where the immune system is fine, everything is working well. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
better plant nutrients equals better life, basically.
Yeah, I don't think I would have put it any other way. So thank you. Actually,
Thank you.
yeah, I actually enjoyed that answer. Yeah, so a few more questions to go. What misconceptions exist about plant-based diet and nutrition adequacy? What misconceptions do you think people have? Like, oh,
Okay,
if you eat
that's
and all
a
of
good one.
yeah.
hmm So a very common misconception is that plant-based always means healthy.
Mm,
If you only eat white rice and bread, you are plant-based, but then you're suffering from eating hunger. So we need diversity and nutrient-dense crops.
mm, wow,
So just because it's plant-based doesn't mean, oh yeah, it's good, it's good. You need balanced diet, basically. It has to be balanced.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people say I'm a vegetarian. They eat only one type of vegetable. Eat only fruits. They will not eat vegetables and all that. They will not use all the classes of food. And they say
Exactly. They need
this plant
fiber,
must be
they need
healthy.
proteins, everything. They all work hand in hand, basically.
So you must eat balanced diet and be sure that the plant you are eating actually contains the nutrients that you need, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm sure that when we talked about biostimulant, biofortification, some listeners will be like, they have come. It's just some GMO. They have come with these GMO things again. So what's the difference between biofortified plants and genetically modified plants?
Yeah. That's a good one. So biofortified, um, the goal is higher nutrients, right?
Mm,
Yeah, it can be done through the old-fashioned way, like normal breeding, classical agronomic practices, just like applying, let's say, fertilizer that is rich in zinc
mm,
or iron to your plant, and then the plant will absorb it. And yeah, whereas GMO is moving genes between species. It's like you're taking from one group of plants to another.
mm.
So most biofortified plants today, they are not GMOs, like they're not genetically modified.
Wow.
No, they're just natural processes. Just you target, you're just being specific, basically, like intentional while growing your plant
Yeah.
without any editing. Yeah,
That was why actually I asked about that being able to replant the seed because there are rumors that if it's GMO, you have to always get the seed again. You can't replant the seed and all.
mm-hmm.
The same with
No,
biofortified plants. You can still
mhm.
replant the seed for most of them at least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
glad to hear that. Now, with rising fertilizer prices that is linked to all these geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, with all these wars going around, how might it
Mm-hmm.
affect crop nutrient quality and food security globally?
Good question. Yeah. So with the conflict in the Middle East and Eastern Europe, fertilizer prices they've
Mm,
skyrocketed, and then this forces farmers to skip fertilizing, which means the next few years of global harvest could be much more lower in vital nutrients like protein and vitamins, because then the farmers they don't have enough money, so they're using less fertilizer, but then the plant actually needs that
mm,
more. So that's why they would need things like biostimulant to actually also help.
mm. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that has answered my next question, actually. Like the sustainable alternatives that can help maintain soil fertility despite this rising fertilizer cost. And that is
Yeah.
using biostimulants, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Biostimulant. And also too, we can also use cover crops like clover to naturally put back nitrogen into the soil.
Mm,
hmm Yeah. And then biostimulants then would help the plant to use what they have, what is already in the soil, even though it's minimal, but to utilize it very well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So biostimulants are like teachers telling them this is available, use it,
hmm
right?
Use it exactly. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So this is the penultimate question anyway. So what
hmm
gives you hope that eating hunger can be significantly reduced in coming decades? Is there any hope at all? Apart from,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there is hope. Yeah, because we've now have technology to see exactly what is happening inside plant. Like you can actually monitor what's going on. So in the next 20 years, we could realistically make nutrient deficiency a thing of the past by changing the seeds we sow now. Like, yeah.
Wow. So once we have more biostimulated plants around, it will,
Mm-hmm.
to proliferate these plants that can actually provide plant nutrients, right? So I hope
Mm-hmm.
that people will look more into biostimulated crops, especially now that sure that there are no GMOs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
And I find this topic interesting really because there are more modern farmers now. Because some people might be wondering, well, do farmers need all of this? Do they even know anything about technology? But there are many farming industries, even in Nigeria, where I'm talking from, in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
they could have access to these things and
Mm-hmm.
spread these crops around. And before you know it, we'll go back to those days of our grandfathers that we talk about. Because
Yeah.
even if we cannot do anything about the soil anymore, I doubt anybody can change soil constituents now with all the
Mm-hmm.
information that is coming up and all. But you can actually change how the plant gets the remaining nutrients in the soil, right? That's
Exactly.
what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing I want to ask you is, what is one key takeaway you want your listeners, those that have been listening to us for the past 30-ish minutes, what do you want them to remember from this our conversation?
Okay. Simple. We are what our plants eat. If we care for the soil and the biology of our crops, we aren't just growing food. We are growing a healthier future for our kids. So yeah,
Hmm.
well, yeah, we are what our plants eat. Basically, we're products of.
That's
The,
beautiful. I think that is another, let me say, an upgrade to what the normal saying is that we are what we eat. You are what,
mm-hmm,
but now we are what our plant eats. That's
mm-hmm,
so it's an upgrade. So it's what your plant eats that determines what you get from the plant.
exactly. Yeah.
That's really nice. So I want to thank you very much for coming on this podcast. It's
Thanks so
like
much for
that
me.
you're able to carve out this time for us because I know you're a busy, busy, busy lady. Thank you for making
Yeah.
it to this podcast. And I'm sure
Thank.
that when questions come up, maybe from listeners and all of that, forward them to you since you are there.
Yeah. I'll be in the comment sections and I would reply as well. So
So thank you very much for that. And I
yeah.
hope that when next I have other questions or any cause to bring you back on the podcast, you will oblige me. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much once again for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Continue the good work. I'm rooting. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So that's it on the Global Health Conversations with FAMG today, listeners. I hope that you were able to get something from it. Now you know that you are what your plant eats. And if you are in the agricultural space, you know that there's something called biostimulant plants. If you want to have access to it in any way, please leave your comments and Dr. Elo will tell you how to get access to them. Like you've heard, they are not very expensive, they are cost effective, okay? And they can be accessible, even though the access is limited right now. Yeah, so that is what I have for you on today's episode of the Global Health Pharmacist Podcast and on this second installment of Global Health Conversations with FAMG. Thank you, thank you, thank you for staying with me up to this point. Expect more interesting conversations about things that directly affect our health. They are not far-fetched things or abstract ideas, okay? Remember to follow the podcast on all social media platforms, from your Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, we are there, to LinkedIn, I'm there as Bemisola Adebisi Jose. All right. Like I always say, also, you can reach out to me via mail at globalhealthpharmacistpodcast@gmail.com. I have seen a few mails, okay? Please bear with me. I will get to it, each and every one of them. All right. I'll see you in the next one. Like I always say, stay healthy and God bless you. Bye.